In the past few years, I've been hearing oncologists tell patients that their cancer was just bad luck. So what cancer is not is it's not a curse. What cancer actually is, it needs to be looked at as a metabolic disease. Hello, Dr. Lori here. In this video, I want to educate you on what cancer is and what it is not. I have heard many things over the years, from bad luck, it's in my family, all of these things that we've heard as far as why it grows. I want to clear up any misconceptions and talk about what is actually happening in the body so you can get a better handle on taking control of your life, asking the right questions, and understanding what's going on more of a physiological level. So we all have up to 70 trillion cells in our body. All of these cells form tissues. All of those tissues create organs, and that's what we know as organ systems in the system, as far as respiratory, our digestive tract, our cardiovascular, our nervous system, our immune system. They all create the systems which make up us. Now, what happens with cancer? It's these cells that start to divide rapidly, and they can start invading other parts of the body. So they don't get that memo to shut off and basically kill themselves. So every cell, every healthy cell lives for about 120 days. So we have this constant turnover of old cells dying off and new cells being reproduced and replicating. But with cancer, it's that never-ending replicating process that's happening to make these cells divide more and more to eventually form a tumor. And what happens is when these cells are constantly dividing, they're not performing the role that they were designed to do. So they're really wreaking havoc on the body and invading other tissues and other organ systems to actually affect their performance and how it's controlled in the body. Now, something really interesting is that in the past few years, I've been hearing oncologists tell patients that their cancer was just bad luck, that they got a shitty hand of cards dealt to them, that it was something that they just they had no control over, and it was just luck of the draw. And if you trace back to the Greek methodology, they actually looked at cancer as a curse, like you did something wrong, it was the angering of the gods, and you developed cancer. So what cancer is not is it's not a curse, and it's not just bad luck. What cancer actually is, it needs to be looked at as a metabolic disease. In the 1970s, we saw cancer as the somatic theory to cancer, that it was purely genetic, and if your mother or grandparents had cancer, you are just destined to have it. That is no longer the case. Genetics really play 5 to 10% of the onset of cancers, but we have to look at the whole metabolic system, which means look at your hormones, look at your immune system, look at lifestyle, diet, epigenetics, and looking at how we can turn these cells on and off. We've even seen conditions like H. pylori, so bacteria, lead to stomach or gastric cancers, or even viral infections like Epstein-Barr lead to lymphomas down the road. So it's really interesting to look at what are the multiple causes, even like glyphosates or pesticides, all the things that can turn these genes on and can actually create mutations to the mitochondria and create an onset of cancer. So it's no longer seen as bad luck or it's just in my family, it's genetics. It is something that we have to look at the whole metabolism, the mitochondria of our system, and that is what triggers the onset of cancer. The next thing that you need to know is that a cancer diagnosis is not a death sentence. I saw my first cancer patient back in 2010, and this patient was given a month to live. He thought it was a death sentence because the doctors told him so. They said, you're sent home to die, basically, get all of your affairs in order. And this is something that he did not want to believe. He wrote a list of all the things that he had to be alive for and all of the reasons why he needs to start taking care of his own health and start doing things for his own body to start to heal. And I've seen that many times over the years where patients are so used to doing everything for everyone else. They're always looking after their children, their parents, their loved ones, looking after everyone else and making sure that they're okay, and they forget to take care of themselves. So this may be you if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I've really never done anything for myself until I've been diagnosed with cancer. that's a huge red flag of saying, okay, you are worthy of putting energy into yourself, and maybe this cancer diagnosis is giving you permission to live. So having a cancer diagnosis may be giving yourself a permission to live the life of doing the things that you love to do. So even writing a list of all the things that, okay, this brings me so much joy, but I've never put myself as a priority. So looking at what are all the things you love to do and all the things that you love doing in your life to really say, you're worth it. So instead of looking at cancer as a death sentence, it needs to be looked at, what can I change in my life to live a more fulfilling life? So many people are, once they're given this diagnosis, they forget how to live. They live with so much fear and so much anxiety of this death sentence that they forget to take one day at a time, look at all the things that are happening that's really great in their life, and be grateful for every single day. I mean, you can get hit by a truck tomorrow, but you're not going to be thinking, oh no, I'm going to be getting hit by a truck. Like, things can happen to us every single day, any moment. So really learning to live life to the fullest and not seeing this as something that you are just destined to die tomorrow with. And the other thing is, I have many patients who live in stage 4 cancer for years. It's been a decade or longer. As long as I've been in practice, they've been stage 4 cancer. So it's something that you can learn to live with and say, yes, I have cancer, but it doesn't own me. It's not something that's going to rule my life, and it's not something that defines you. The next thing that's really important to clear up is that cancer is not just one single thing. So many of us think that cancer is just a tumor that you need to cut out and then you're cancer free, and it's something that we just need to have chemo, radiation, surgery, and it's gone. So cancer is not one single thing, it is many things. So we have to look at it from a mental, an emotional, a spiritual, and physical component. It's interesting to also see, where does cancer develop in your body? So a lot of thyroid cancers can be correlated with not speaking your voice, or not feeling heard, or not feeling like you have an opinion, or people notice you as far as being able to speak and be clear on what your needs are. And same with when it comes to rectal cancer or colon cancer, there's a lot of correlation to letting things go and being able to move on from past hurt, resentments, guilt. So there's an emotional component to cancer when you look at where it shows up in the body. Left-sided breast cancer, for example, can be associated with connection with your mother and maybe not feeling loved. With colon cancer can be associated with not letting things go. And what in your life are you holding on to that just needs to be released? So when you start to dive deeper into some of the emotional and mental and spiritual components, you realize that there's a huge connection there on why things manifest in the system. And it's not just one single cause. We have to look at your body as a whole and seeing all of the components of why cancer is able to grow in this environment. Now, the fourth thing that I want to talk about is cancer is not extrinsic. And that relates a lot to what I was saying with number one, with that it's not a curse. It's not something that we just were exposed to something and then it started to develop in the body. It really is more of an intrinsic reason on why cancer grows. We need to look at the whole terrain of the body and what stimulates its growth in the first place. There's many drivers to cancer cells. So for example, insulin-like growth factor, estrogen is a growth factor as well. So even if you don't have a hormonal cancer, estrogen can still feed cancer's growth. mTOR is another common driver of cancer, along with various growth hormones. So once we know all of the things that stimulate cell growth, then we can start targeting your system and looking at how can we stop those drivers or limit how it's being stimulated in the body. And a really good example of this is every time you're eating, your pancreas is releasing insulin. So that's why I use fasting protocols in my practice, because the least amount of times that you're stimulating insulin, you're actually slowing down this signal that's driving cancer's growth in the first place. So it doesn't mean that you need to cut your calories and that you need to not eat at all, but you need to really select how often you're eating in the day. So all of the calories that you're doing, you're putting in an 8 to 10 hour feeding time or feeding window versus constantly spiking insulin from 7 a.m. until midnight every single day. So the metabolic approach to cancer really does focus on the intrinsic reasons why cancer grows, looking at all of the triggers, all of the drivers from hormones, immune, bacterial, viral, parasitic, looking at all the things in our body that can stimulate cancer's growth, and learning to create a plan to help prevent and slow the progression, lower cancer risk, and slow how it's moving around in the system. Now, the last one that I want to talk about is one pill for one ill. Now, we always are looking for the cure to cancer and what's that magic pill that we're going to find. And, after 30 years of the war on cancer and trying to find what is the cause, and let's have this one chemo drug that's developed that's going to cure cancer, that is not going to happen unless you look at the whole body and what is the cause in the first place. And we know that it's not just genetic. We know that it's not a curse that is just bad, shitty luck that's happened to you. There are multiple reasons of why cancer is growing. And so there's not just ever going to be one pill that's going to be the cure. I know, very sad to hear that, because wouldn't that be nice? I know there's been some studies coming out with immunotherapy and certain immunotherapy drugs, which is very promising, but it is using your own immune system to help stimulate how your immune is seeing cancer in the body. But if you are doing immunotherapy, you still need to look at gut health, your hormones, what food you're eating, your stress, all of the things that make that immunotherapy more effective. Any drug that you have, you can develop what's called multi-drug resistance. So you may find that it's effective for a year or two, but then your body almost becomes immune to it and it stops working. And so that's why it's really important to look at the whole system, help with how your body is responding to these medications, or even looking at your food, your diet, your lifestyle, because we know lifestyle is 90% of why cancer grows in the first place. Looking at all of those things and creating the magic pill without actually having that magic pill. It has to be more of a lifestyle and things that you can do in a multifaceted approach versus seeing it as just one pill is going to cure this condition. Sadly, it will not. So for example, if you have been diagnosed with HPV and you've now developed cervical cancer, then all of the chemo, all of the radiation and surgeries that you do is not going to prevent it from coming back. You need to take more of an antiviral approach and an immune system approach, and looking at even toxicity and mold and pesticides, all the things that can throw off your immune system in the first place. So if you're not addressing the virus, then cancer is always going to come back. And that's the same with stomach cancer. If you never address the H. pylori that's been manifesting and in there for many, many years, then that cancer will always come back as well. So that's what's really important, is to look at all the reasons why cancer can grow in the body, what is driving its growth, and create a treatment plan that is personalized to you. Now, I talk all about this in my recent book, Cancer Doesn't Own You. I go over 160 things that you can do to boost your health and fight cancer on a daily basis. You can have access to it for free if you visit my drlori.ca website. I hope that you get that book, read all the information. After reading the book, and hopefully after this video too, it'll open your eyes to seeing cancer as more of a metabolic disease and something that we can take control of and empower ourselves and our family members and our friends to have more control over the situation and not rely on one drug to save the day or one treatment plan to save the day and the anxiety and fear around it hopefully never coming back. So once you know all of this education and you're more empowered, then that'll ease a lot of the anxiety as well. So check out my free book at drlori.ca, and I'll see you in the next video.